Maxine's was opened in 1950, and so next year will be 70 years. So we're on our 69th year this year. Maxine was very motherly in ways, but very serious and very businesslike at the same sense. She didn't tolerate any nonsense, I guess you could say. You didn't argue with her about anything. It was her way, and she was very specific on that. It was just easier to do what she wanted and not question it and go along with it. I learned that very quick. You know, as a young girl, if we wanted to see Maxine, we came to Maxine's. Us seeing her was here, more so than in her house. I remember being 4 years old, 5, 6 years old, in here playing the ding ding machine on a Friday night, packed. I was in here many times where someone would come in and she would say, I haven't seen you since April 2nd, 1976. She would know the exact date of the last time that they were in. At the same point, she would say, where in the hell have you been? She remembered faces, she remembered names. It was a personal experience that people wanted to come back and see her. It's just a place that people felt comfortable and felt home. Small business is hard. You take a woman in 1950 owning a business is difficult at that time period. You take a woman owning a bar in 1950, and I can't even imagine how hard that must have been. My grandmother worked here. A lot of my family members have worked here. It's been the family for so long, and you know, Maxine and I sat down and had a conversation before she passed away, before she got really ill, and we talked about Maxine's, and we talked about the future of Maxine's. And she told me, she said, you know, someday it's probably going to have to change. She told me not to be afraid of making changes. She didn't like to make changes at all herself, but her ultimate, I think, passion for this place was to have people here. That's what made her happy, was having people in the seats. This place full is what she thrived for and what made her soul happy. And I felt like with her trusting me with that, I would do everything in the world to make it happen. When Maxine got sick in her last years, I had just kind of brought in different beers. And that was really without her knowing. If she knew about that, she would probably have been very mad at me. But over the years, it's just mainly been a beer bar. Fayetteville at the time was a place where that could go on, a period where craft beers kind of were not around. As the industry in Fayetteville has changed so much, that just wasn't possible. You couldn't survive and just be a beer bar in Fayetteville, Arkansas anymore. So Maxine's needed to transition and needed to change. And that's something that Hannah and Ben were able to bring to the table.
We have put the focus on cocktails. We started with classic cocktails, and we started 6 years ago with just 8 classic cocktails. We were the first ones in Fayetteville to do a Moscow Mule in a copper mug. And it sort of has evolved with a really talented staff of people who are interested in what's happening nationally with cocktails. They've sort of snowballed this into a craft cocktail bar. But we do focus on classics. Half our menu are classic cocktails. This was a place that we would come when we owned a little bread company across the street, and we would come in here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when we got out of work. Bakers end early, and it was after Maxine had passed away, and my husband Ben would always sit in here and have a beer and say, man, I can see what we could do with this place if we ever had a chance. And we sort of developed a relationship through Block Street Block Party with Andrea and started having conversations about how to fill it up with people making new memories and new experiences. This is Stephen Eidlet. He is a general manager of Maxine's for us while we stay busy with other projects. And I think he's gonna show you how to make a drink.
As Hannah said, my name is Stephen. I'm one of the bartenders at Maxine's Taproom. I'm here today to show you how to make a classic Manhattan. We'll start with some rye whiskey, 2 ounces. And next, and most importantly, solid vermouth, 1 ounce. And also, probably just as importantly, 2 dashes of Angostura bitters. Then we'll get some ice. And you're gonna stir this cocktail. You don't wanna shake a Manhattan or any drink that doesn't have citrus in it. If it's just booze and fortified wines, you just wanna stir it. You want it to have like a cold, like silky smooth texture. You don't want it to have like lots of air bubbles in there. And we're gonna serve this drink up because that's how I like to drink them. Serving it up, you're just gonna stop the dilution at where it was. You know, it doesn't have to melt over ice. And then we're gonna garnish it with a Luxardo cherry. And you have a classic rye Manhattan. It tastes like candy to me. It's like the rye whiskey is like a little bit of spice to really pair well with the vermouth that we use, which is like really heavy vanilla and like caramel notes. That is just like one of my all-time favorite drinks. It's a classic for a reason.